Welcome back, everyone, to the Monmouth Moms podcast. I'm so excited to have my guest today, Masha Moro from Masha Moro Caviar. We have a mutual friend who I grew up with, who connected us probably, when was that, August, I guess?
I think so over the summer.
Yeah, but it's been a while trying to arrange to actually get you here, which I'm so glad that we finally got it done because it's almost November. But we connected a little bit, and I knew of you. I was very familiar with your business, and so excited to learn more about your story, in addition to kind of what you've already shared with me. But tell everyone where you're from.
Yeah, I live in Monmouth Beach right now.
Okay.
I originally born and raised in Moscow, Russia. Mm-hmm. So I came when I was 14 years old to Washington, D.C. So I grew up, went to high school there, then went to Penn State.
Is it like the suburbs of D.C. or you grew up in D.C.?
Bethesda, Maryland.
Okay.
So that's really on the border between D.C. and Bethesda, Maryland.
My stepdaughter, she lives with us now, but when she was younger, her mom lives in Silver Springs.
Yeah.
So I know the area a little bit.
Silver Spring, yeah.
Yeah, it's during rush hour is insane.
It's beautiful there. It's very nice area to live in, I think, raise a family. It's very clean,
Mm-hmm.
It's unique, definitely. Of course, all the museums and all the cool things to do in D.C., but also just looking around, the homes and seeing a lot of historical, beautiful, kind of
all the beautiful Dutch colonial homes.
Homes,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of embassies, of course, obviously.
Right.
But, yeah,
right. That's great.
It's a good trip, especially cherry blossom time.
Why did your parents decide to move here?
My parents are diplomats. My father is.
Wow.
So he brought me and my mom, I'm an only child,
Okay.
to the United States just for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
His contract was just for 2 years at the IMF. And then it got extended for, my gosh, 32 years it's been now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. They're actually moving back soon to Russia for him to be doing other things. But my kids were born and raised in Monmouth Beach. My husband's the local Monmouth Beacher, so his pictures are on the walls of my children's school. The black and white, when he was a baby. So
he grew up cool. There.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Back when Monmouth Beach was just a really small town, and it wasn't even cool to live in Monmouth Beach. There was no ocean, or the beach, I should say.
Yeah.
So the water came right to the wall. A lot of people don't know that. All of that is man-made. All those beaches, and Monmouth Beach specifically. So it's a cool little trivia.
Were you telling me that was it you that there's a little community, all the homes that were, is that Monmouth Beach, where they were bought by the town or something like that, and that people would have, or was I reading it? I don't know if I'm misspeaking, but is it Monmouth Beach where there's there's no, it's Highlands, where Waterwitch?
I'm not sure. There's Kitchen Witch, which is a business, a breakfast place in Monmouth Beach.
It was a bunch of homes that were built. It's not Monmouth Beach, but it's very close to there.
I think you're talking Sandy Hook, potentially?
No. Yeah, it's something separate. I thought that was you that told me that. But anyway, but Monmouth Beach is a great, I know it's very community driven. People love, it's very tight knit and people love it there.
Yeah, we're about to do a huge Monmouth Beach Halloween parade that goes through Navasink and Monmouth Parkway, so 2 parallel streets, and all the homes open up, and the doors, and the music, and the kids are just running around. Everybody knows each other, children. I mean, unless they're, of course, in Halloween, wearing a mask. But it's a very nice little community and kind of an oasis town, very small. And
you have an elementary school, right?
Yes, it's very, very small, and the classes are, it's a public school, but the classes are almost at a private level. So, with 12 kids, you have 2 or 3 teachers sometimes. So.
And then where do they go to high school?
They're in elementary school now, and then after they are over, it goes through middle school. So through ninth grade. So ninth grade is Shore Regional.
Oh, I see. Okay, and they have a middle school too.
Yep. So it goes all the way.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
A lot of
Some of the short
lot of
times
years.
I get confused with like where the kids go and stuff.
It's unusual.
Yeah.
It's unusual how it's been, set up, but it's definitely like a commitment, Like, I mean, you go there for a while.
Yeah, yeah. So you moved from the DC area to New Jersey, or how did you spend your 20s?
My 20s. So after Penn State finance degree, I went to work on Wall Street. So Bank of New York literally was one wall, was the address, merged with BNY, with Mellon, so BNY Mellon. And I worked in ADRs, which is basically American Depository Receipts. So it's companies that are listed abroad in their own countries. So I worked with Russia, being Russian. But they, companies wanted to expand and list on different foreign exchanges. So London, Hong Kong, New York, and so I facilitated a lot of that, in addition to throwing a lot of events that were driven for the educational purposes of these sort of emerging markets, learning about corporate governance and, publishing annual reports and just the basics that they might not know, to bring investors and make the investors more comfortable, Western investors, to invest in the companies when they're listed abroad. So one ADR would represent a share trading on the New York Stock Exchange. So it was an interesting 17, 18 years that I spent there. And in between I did my MBA at NYU, so an executive one. So kind of gave me a bit of a perspective from like the financial and accounting position to be able to run my business now, because I sort of know all the ins and outs. And when I do presentations or do caviar tastings, I'm very comfortable with people just based on the stuff that I've done.
Yeah, you were in that world already,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
right.
like a very strict, corporate people that, need a lot of hand-holding and, demanding audience. It's a lot more chill with caviar, to be honest. It's a lot more fun. Yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm done with the corporate world.
So what made you want to leave the industry?
Banking. Yeah. Well, it was very straightforward, having children, being a mom, pre-COVID, so around... I'll tell you exactly. 2018, my second boy was born. 16 was my first. 2018 was my second. And coming out of maternity leave, 6 months or so, what the banking industry used to give you, or maybe still gives you, I was coming out and making a decision, like, what do I do? Having already moved here from Tribeca, New York, full-time to Monmouth Beach. Monmouth Medical, 2 boys were born there. So at that time, boss, manager said that no to working from home, just around the weekends. So Monday, he said no, Friday, no. So it was just really a no. And I tried to really think of how I would maintain my household, my children who are babies, 19 months apart. And also, my husband was at that point also commuting, so it just would have been completely outsourcing my life and my family. So I quit, and then took a little bit of time to raise my boys, and then just got really incredibly desperate to go back to the world of being surrounded by interesting, stimulating people and just doing things outside of the home. I think a lot of maybe mothers could relate to that, especially those that have had careers that were very demanding and used to traveling and being busy all the time. And I'm not saying that the joy of motherhood is not tremendous, and it's the hardest job you could possibly do. But if you have a need or a passion to do something more, and then it's not enough, like that I was that person.
I think lots of moms can relate to that, especially when like they're little and it's physically like demanding. You're kind of like, it's a blur, you're still like postpartum and like just
surviving,
exactly, like when you come out of that, when they're like 3 or whatever, it's like, okay, now like like and also, and especially when they're in school too, where it's like, how much can I do the lawn, and
Right.
and some moms I think really enjoy it, and that's amazing. I've
Yeah.
just never been able to like be that person.
I don't like cooking.
I've always loved
No,
working. When I
no,
was 14,
yeah,
I got my first
yeah.
working papers. Like I begged my mom for a job.
Yeah.
And like it's always just been part of who I am, and it's not something that like I was willing to or should have really wanted to give up,
Yeah.
So I completely relate to it.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of moms do, and I think they try to kind of mold themselves into being both, and some do a fabulous job. I think we know a few, mutual people like that have been able to, of
Right,
course,
right.
included in that. But it's the older they get, the less they sort of need you physically, like preventing them from falling down the stairs, and it's more of a trying to explain why the world could be rough and hard, and they get insecurities at early ages of like, why am I don't know, like not being liked by the popularity kicks in, and then this whole talking becomes a lot more important, which is also the next level of kind of motherhood and parenthood.
Yes,
But
a lot of different cycles of motherhood.
but I like to balance it with something that I do for myself, because if I don't feed my soul and myself and my brain, I feel like I can't be as good for the kids, because I feel like it's a little bit more of just really one-sided.
Yeah.
So that's how I found Caviar, and really sitting around having dinners with my husband thinking, oh, what else could I do that's outside of the corporate world, being here, not a lot of financial, places to go back to if I was to go back to finance. There's a lot of wealth management, Red Bank area here, here specifically.
Financial advisory,
Yeah, which I wasn't in that world. I was in very different, like ADRs is a very specific niche,
Okay.
So wanted to do something for me, and then tapped into the roots of Russian and what that really means. Selling caviar, fur, vodka, polar bears, like all those stereotypes were flooding into my brain as we're like having dinners with my husband. And then I just started to, gravitate towards caviar, and I'm seeing that there's really not a lot of knowledge around it or places to buy it. Where I saw that 2020 is when I LLC'd in April, really midst of COVID. And that summer just picked it up, like I was doing private parties like at a distance in people's homes, and I'm an online business. I don't have a storefront just because it comes with a whole lot of other things. So I just made it easy where I could still balance my life and be there for my kids, but also just really make it customized and cool for the customers that want to have a different kind of experience, especially when people were embracing celebration.
Right, it's a great area for that. So did you know a lot about caviar?
I did, because I grew up eating it growing up in Russia, but I definitely, leaving at 14, I didn't know all the nuances, around, the caviar, different sturgeon fish and how they're raised and how fussy they are, and what it takes to, how many years it takes to raise them, and what they are being fed, and how the fish get sonogrammed, and how they get weighted, and how, they have to hibernate, and so many other nuances in the grades within the fish, and why it's more expensive, and why is it like better, and
Right.
The salt content. I mean, there's so much, it's a very specific kind of food.
Right.
Yeah. And unique, and the most nutritional food out there, really.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like in the spoonful. It's like the super.
It's a superfood?
It's a superfood before the superfood was like even like invented. Yeah.
Oh, you'll still have to tell me about that.
Yep.
So entrepreneurship fascinates me. Women and moms specifically in business is just like so interesting to me. How, what drives you, what made you choose that, what, how you got started, and also, with your background, I think I have always believed that everything is a stepping stone, and that you are, what you learn now, like it may not even make sense, right? Like where you are within your career, but you don't realize that you'll probably take part of that into something else that you're doing in the future, which is oftentimes the case. How did you even know where to start?
Yeah. just having the background again, with the, just knowing finance and just working with, like kind of like accounting and like doing my own books and all of that. So that part kind of made me feel confident that I could start with enough research. Everything's online these days. You look up things and you look up, we have availability of all these websites that potentially you could use. So starting building your own website. If it is an online business, it's a lot easier because, it's actually fun to put a little marketing aspect to it because you're coming up with pictures and you're coming up with imageries and maybe there's a video and how to make that video like pop, so if you like that marketing, which I love the marketing side to it, which was also part of the the finance degree. You had to take a lot of marketing classes,
right?
So when you really kind of enjoy sitting there with a computer and creating, and then taking it further into being in front of people and loving educating people and loving the reaction of people that have never had it or are so curious or even timid about it, and then like just breaking those stereotypes about the caviar being too salty or too fishy, and like people just like really enjoying it, or maybe they've had something so bad so long ago and they just don't want to like try it again. And because of so many events that I've done where I'm standing there with my little setup and I'm giving people a spoonful or a bump, like we can get into what that is, just a fun way of eating it, a different way of eating it, but basically to taste it, to try it, it's already there.
Right.
I like changing people's opinions about it, especially because it's so healthy, and it doesn't have to be expensive, and I do tell young moms that are trying to introduce it to their kids, you could start with salmon roe and the nutrition aspect of salmon roe, which comes from salmon, wild salmon, Atlantic salmon, so it's as good as the sturgeon black varieties that people are thinking like only beluga is the best, and that's only what I'm gonna have. So
I wouldn't know anything, but I'm so interested. So about what preconceived notions about caviar, or just like what I would know, like where to start. So where did you know where to source it?
So I've worked with different companies and different aqua farms. So now it's no longer so. It originated in the Caspian Sea of Russia that bordered Iran and Russia, and then the lake got depleted, the sea got depleted of all the overfishing, and so what a lot of smart people did back in the early '80s, that they've taken the fish and basically bred it in an aqua farm environment. So it comes from all in different parts of the world. They've established.
It's not just in that area anymore. Okay, no. Interesting.
So
but not nearby, not anywhere within the. Okay.
So just Russian caviar is just Russian caviar is way gone. Like nobody really like. U.S. actually prevents imports of beluga specifically since 2004.
Is that an environmental?
Because of it being like in the Red Book, because it's basically almost extinct.
I see. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there's aqua farms throughout the world. So France, Italy, Israel, California, Florida. China, Chinese are actually dominating. They're over 60% of the market.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Wow.
But in the midst of COVID, they were doing pretty bad because nobody really wanted anything Chinese, and because of the whole pandemic going around. But a lot of Michelin stars still use Chinese caviar, and it's very regulated, and it's a good product still. But some people want something from specifically like from Italy, or they have an affiliation from Israel, for instance, or California. They want the U.S. products. So
will the product, are they different grade levels? Like how is it distinguished?
So there's 27 varieties of specifically sturgeon fish. So if you think of what a sturgeon fish is, they predate dinosaurs. They're actually really they've been around for
wow.
years.
Okay.
And they're giant. One of the biggest reported beluga sturgeon fish was over 2,500 pounds. So think of what that is. And they're freshwater fish, and they go to like the the salt. They migrate to mate, and then they come back to being in the fresh water. So the female could have like almost a third of its body, like weight of caviar, and they don't bear eggs every year. It's every 2 years or so. And then the professionals like sonogram the fish to see like how the eggs are matured, and there's different ways of how to make it better. So the older the fish, the more richer and flavorful the caviar is.
The older the fish.
The older the
Got
fish.
it.
So
Okay.
it's the opposite way of maybe how you would think about it. And there's a process of reabsorption, so you can have the fish reabsorb the caviar, so the next time it bears the caviar will be that much creamier and more delicious, and actually have a hue of like gold sometimes.
Of gold. Wow.
So people call like gold osetra, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 27 different varieties.
Yeah.
And are some like saltier, some have more depth, I guess.
Yeah.
Like one from Italy has like different taste profiles, so to speak. Yeah.
No, not exactly. So the way the easiest way to think about it, it's almost like breeding like a Cocker Spaniel in one country versus the next. It's still going to be your type of the dog, right? Like
So,
it's
like,
going to be
relatively the same taste.
It's going to be like a Russian Osetra was like the name of the most like popular caviar out of Russia. So there was like the Russian Osetra, Sevruga, and Beluga. Those were the trio. But then there's like Siberian sturgeon and American white. And there's, like Hackleback even, and every single one, no matter where it comes from, it will still have those taste notes, So Italian Osetra will have similar taste notes as Chinese Osetra.
Okay.
Nevertheless, like some people that are really true, like connoisseurs, will be able to like find those specific taste notes that are they like to gravitate towards maybe like the European ways of raising. And I'm not gonna say one is better than the other. It's just sometimes a preference. You could have a same sweater being made in Italy versus anywhere else, and you would just say I love my Italian products, and you will just stick to it subconsciously.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And so does the price differentiate like vastly or no, it doesn't. So it's all pretty much
really,
within the same
not
price
really.
point.
The only thing that's harder with the things that are outside of the U.S. is basically just dealing with customs, and maybe that price gets to be
It fluctuates.
figured into the price of the caviar. Yes, it would be maybe more expensive. Yeah.
Okay. But caviar in general, I mean, I was always under the impression that it's more of a, like a celebratory something because it's on the pricier side.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me how it is prepared. Is it, I know the creme fraiche and the chip is like always how it was served back in the day when I used to do
the
catering
traditional
and all that. Yeah. But are there other ways to serve caviar if you have never had it before? And what are some fun ways that people are eating it?
Well, people that love it, they do all kinds of. There's so many ways to do it, and it's not really specifically to have it be eaten with the creme fraiche and the bellinis and the chopped eggs. Like this is like the back in the day how
in the 70s, I think
New York City,
right.
like some of the Russian places, I guess, maybe used to serve it, but. Right now, I think the purest way is just on the spoonful, even with a cracker, maybe even not creme fraiche. And if you really love your caviar, you probably want to almost like do a tasting with and have done so many of those. People love sitting around the table and taking like out of 6 little jars or, 2 ounces, 4 ounces, depending how many people, but they would taste from a spoon, like a disposable spoon. On its own, and sip prosecco or champagne with it, and sort of decide which flavor is their flavor, similar to the way you would taste I don't know, a glass of champagne, and you compare white wine or red wine, and to each their own.
Yep.
But they will have very distinct flavors, also distinct softness of the egg itself, right? So it's either small or bigger, harder shell or softer shell. Beluga is basically the reason it's hyped up so much is, it's a rare of the fish. Like, it's one of the fussiest of the fish to grow, takes longest, and the flavor is just really amazing because it's just very silky. It hits all the notes that, like the buttery and the creamy and just the aftertaste and just it's
a delicacy.
It's a true delicacy. But if you haven't eaten all the caviar in the world, and it's not part of your regular thing, you don't have to go straight to the most expensive. I mean, I have caviar that you could get for $50, $100, and I package it into like gift boxes and bum boxes that
I see.
hold little jars in there, and so. And then when people have a party at their backyard or location of their choice, or a wedding or bar mitzvah, or what any kind of event where there's space and enough of people wanting to celebrate something, or just girlfriends getting together, or maybe it's a husband thing or celebratory like anniversary. It's a cool thing to just have. Usually people hire me for like an hour to do a little bit of like a cocktail hour, and then they go into dinner because you can only get so full with caviar.
It's late,
to address your salt part of it. So caviar it's all fresh. The way they prepare it is they basically take the caviar out and they wash it in the specific like salt kind of liquid or water.
Okay.
And the best caviar is under 3% of salt in it. So there's really no additives. There's nothing. What's important is to have a right vacuum machines that take out all the air, because air is not a friend of caviar.
Oh.
And when the jar is closed, it lasts really up to like 8 weeks in your fridge, so you don't have to use it right away.
Interesting.
And once you open it, you want to consume it within like 5 days to a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it won't last okay, got it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you started the business in 2020? No,
2020.
2020. So how did you bring it to market initially?
So just really going to places, going to restaurants, reaching out locally.
So selling wholesale to like
wholesale,
B2B to local businesses.
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely. And trying to just naturally, like people, it's a small community around here,
Yep.
and I think people really embraced getting together for not so much even like the holiday reasons, but just to celebrate life because of how hard life was during those few years, So because it arrives straight to your doorstep, because you trust the people that are already in your home, you can order in the champagne, plus they deliver champagne and caviar gift boxes too.
Wow.
So if it arrives to your house and you don't really need to have exposure to like going to a restaurant, it was a way to get together and celebrate, and it just kind of grew from there, and it's word of mouth,
right.
Being like the only woman-owned caviar business in New Jersey sort of gets you, like all these women are always supportive of each other, right? Like we all want to, we understand how hard it is. Life is hard, right? And we try to find these moments where we could elevate each other and support each other and make each other and yourself like happy by doing things like that, because what else is there, right? And also the kids, like even this morning I was answering a mom reaching out to me on Instagram. Now that the following's bigger, like people reaching out throughout like the U.S., the nation.
Wow.
So she's asking, my newborn, I want to introduce one of the solid foods to be caviar.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe try banana first, like just to make sure it's, they're okay, because I'm not a doctor, but I don't know if the first like food should be,
that like puts a new meaning to like born with a silver spoon.
Yeah. she's like, I don't know if I want it for myself. It's expensive, but I'm like, you don't have to do the expensive. Like the salmon roe has the same nutritional, like all the omega-3s, all the proteins.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it doesn't have to, and it freezes well.
Mm-hmm.
So the egg shells don't pop. You just defreeze it overnight, and from the mason jar. You know, if you buy it in larger amounts, you just divvy it up and then you defreeze it in the fridge and then you can eat it the next day.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, like my kid eats it with a spoonful. Like there's a lot of Anthony, my son Anthony, who like loves it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
since he was 2, he's been crazy about it. But he likes salty things, like right. He likes pickles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some kids just really like salty things.
Yeah.
And he loves steamers too, so I guess he's my adventurous one too.
It sounds like it. Wish
Yeah.
my kids were like that. I'm like the pickiest eaters. I'll eat anything, and my house is very meat and potatoes, so it's not fun for me.
It's something also to help me as a mom because it's so nutritionally dense. Like as I'm running around and I have like even like I keep salmon because I can only like go. I mean I don't want to just like go crazy with it. It's expensive even like. For me, at like the price that I get, because I don't have fish that I breed in my backyard. You know,
you don't? No.
Monmouth Beach doesn't provide that environment. Yes. So, you know, but I still eat salmon. Salmon's very affordable. Mm-hmm. There's smoked trout too. You know, any kind of basic fish that's readily available. That's not rare. It's going to be an entirely different price tag. You know.
Right.
So I just. Couple of spoonfuls of that, you know, put it on the salad, eggs, and it's just like instead of salt, right, because it's got a little salt to it, and it's just like really powerful kind of protein, like boom, just like as you would with, you know, with the electrolytes, you know, just come, you know, got to run in, run out, and then keep going.
It's like what do I put on my like in my smoothies and stuff? The bee pollen, like the little. I don't know. They're this big. Pellets.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And
they're very powerful.
It's very good for like energy. Like it's good for your skin and stuff like that. So I notice like a big difference when I don't have it, and like it, like I feel like a little bit more depleted. So all the things that like you just anything I put in my smoothie, honestly, I'm like just throw it in there.
I know, but that's
you.
the thing. Like us moms, like I think we always like take the back seat because everything else is like we give so much to the kids, we give so much to the husbands or the spouses or the you know your significant others, and then you're just like. Eating leftovers or like you know trying to just like or like skip meals you know? So I to me personally it really works. Like I always try to have a little caviar because it's just like it doesn't make my stomach growl and I know it's like super nutritional. So
oh, that's interesting. So it's high in omega-3s and it's pretty nutrient based,
amino acids, like all of the omega-3s. So I have hemoglobin customers, like older people that are actually using it just to help them with their own levels. Oh,
that's so interesting. That's good to know.
And iron, if you are deficient in iron, also is very like it has everything. That's why it's like an original superfood. And this is a cool trivia. Back in the day, before caviar was expensive or people knew about caviar, instead of peanuts at bars, they served caviar so that the customers would get like thirsty and drink more beer.
It's like lobster, right? Wasn't lobster like given to the
right?
I forget, but like it was cheap.
Like
and
the way you think of lobster now, it used to be different. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. I did not know any of this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
So you started going around to local businesses to sell, or did that come later? Were you selling like to, like I know that you set up at a lot of different events, like once the world started opening up a little bit more to get your name out there.
Yeah.
But I know now you work with like one of the fisheries in Little Silver.
Yeah.
Do certain restaurants have it on the menu from you too? Okay.
Yeah. And then also, you know, women. Again, a woman-owned business, like it just sort of, you know, for instance, this is just a little bit of like side note. So Cool in the Gang, for instance, they rolled out their lady champagne. So their promoters and their like businessmen, like people, reached out to me thinking maybe we could, team up with another. And they're Jersey based, Cool in the Gang. They live in North Jersey.
Okay.
So they reached out. They wanted to do a partner and do things together. So we've done, a couple of like side by side tastings of their lady champagne and like
I love it.
me serving caviar there. Let's see what else. Doing fundraisers and local charity things. I've tried to do that. It's gratifying for me to be able to be there, and it's exposure, of course, but it's harder for me to do a lot of free things just because I've done so much of them in the 4 years. It taps into just like really growing my business, so I forego some of the stuff that I could be doing as far as like the marketing things and the SEO things that I could be like really tapping into because time is short, you know. But also expenses, add up. So my best, where it's best is really a party of about 30 people, not even like 100, not even like
much more intimate.
Much more intimate, because people really are like, wow, they're like, we've never done this before.
That is really great, yeah. And I'm sure then they want to order their own when they leave.
Yeah, and then they find their own favorite, and then they all talk around the stories of how maybe one of them went to like Soviet, like the train between St. Petersburg and Moscow, and how they've traveled to Moscow at some point, like long time ago, and they've had this caviar, and it was so abundant because back then it was like a different story. Caspian Sea was booming and stuff with caviar. So it's a good conversation. It's just fun.
It is.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned when we spoke initially that I used to sell wine, and I did that for over a decade. So I speak wine pretty well, right? I know a lot about it. I'm not a sommelier. I'm certainly not a master sommelier. It was never, the business side was much more interesting to me. I worked with like a lot of like the big box stores like Whole Foods and ShopRite and Wegmans and kind of like more of the chain stores. So I worked with like buyers, and I found wines that like had really high margins or markups depending on what their goals were to just bring them like things that they could make money on. And a lot of what I did oftentimes, if when I wasn't working with those stores, was the smaller stores that maybe had high volume, but they were still small businesses, right? And I think people forget a lot of the time that like, oh, I have a business, like, they must be millionaires. Like, that's usually not the case. And that they, they're really each month like trying to find things that they could, make money on just to, to be able to compete, right, with the bigger stores down the street, right? So that was always so gratifying to me that I was able to, it was fun, right? It was celebratory as well, right?
Yeah.
Wine is something that is, shared among friends, and, you can have it like a table wine, but you can also have some really great wines that are conversational pieces, and it's something that like I've always, been able to take with me even since then. I've been out of the industry for almost 7 years now, and still, I can, go to a restaurant, right? Or, someone that I meet, and, or even just make recommendations, because like I know enough about the business to know like what's good and what's not. I don't know every wine, obviously. I don't know, exactly how it was all grown, but it's fun, right? And it's nice that you can, I know exactly what you mean, where you can, just host a nice dinner, and people are just so interested to like learn more and try new things, because that's like what it's like the fun of part of parenthood, right? When you can just get a Friday and get your friends together and try new things. So I love it. It's so cool.
And like just like random, like jewelry stores, for instance, if they wanted to do like a little bit of something around Christmas, they could have me there, and as customers are walking in, they grab a champagne, and caviar doesn't take a lot of room. All I need is just a little tiny like a foot space, right? It's not like doing a big catering or anything like that. So
when Bloomie's opens, that you should be there.
Oh yes, I saw that. I already marked my calendar. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too.
Just for me.
I'm going to connect you with the general manager, because I'm actually going to be working with them. So
good. November 14th. It's in my head.
It's my daughter's birthday. I'm going to be like, want to go to Bloomie's?
That's great. I mean, it's good. It's good to see our area expanding.
I know,
and
super excited.
growing. Yeah.
They're actually they're going to be, it's women's only, so like women's
Okay.
clothing, but they will have handbags. They will have shoes.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any shoes in this area. Nowhere to get shoes
No.
besides like Anthropology.
No, especially for tall people like
Right?
me who wears like almost 42s. Like,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Or 11s, whatever it is.
So that's
That's
exciting.
great, yeah.
And then I think they're going to have like a little cafe inside too. So
Oh, good.
I'm going there actually on the 12th. I'm going to check it out. But that would be a great
Yeah.
partnership, right?
Yeah, like when Sickles was, unfortunately what happened, but we were selecting the space for my fridge already, like where it was going to be. I did
Okay.
a bunch of pop-ups there. That would have been a perfect space also for people
Yeah.
to get it, but it's funny, people find me and sometimes the internet like online business requires for you to put some sort of address, so a lot of people find my Monmouth Beach address.
Okay.
I can't find a loophole
Do they show
around
up there?
it. So they're like, we're calling, they're calling and they're like, we're driving, and if I have something and like at my own home, I always meet them in my driveway, invite them over, like, I'm not like, maybe I should be more cautious, but I feel comfortable, this community and everybody's like local, so they come to my house to pick it up sometimes if I have some in stock, but I would get funny phone calls like, hi, you have any fish, or, they think I'm a seafood store, because I also had to find it like on the drop down menu. It's kind of limiting. It doesn't say
see.
like I'm a caviar store.
Okay.
So my website does need to like specify that I am like just an online business, which I think I do a good job of, but it gets confusing because people always think they want to like come to a storefront.
I see.
Yep.
Yep.
If you're selling something, but small businesses need a little bit more flexibility on that.
Right. So tell me what this experience has been like how old are your kids now?
So my older one is actually his birthday is 2 days after Halloween. He's turning 8.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one is 6. So they're 19 months apart, boys. Yeah, 6 and 8.
And it offers, flexibility, right, to be present. You're working from home most days, right?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest party I've done was for Uncorked Wine Festival, and there was like 2,000 people, and it was a ticket sale kind of event, and I felt like just a vendor, like handing out these bumps, and there's no true engagement and conversation, and while people liked it, but it was just very, like, it's just chaotic, It's not the way to taste really caviar, I feel, because it's not just grabbing a sandwich or a bite or like even like a I don't know, like a pass around hors d'oeuvre per se when it's that many people. That's why I say like 30 people is really great, unless you do a wedding and then I have some staff that helps me. I mean, I can always bring my own people to serve larger parties, like, whether it's friends or I hire somebody. I work with sommeliers if they wanted to pair it with wine or champagne. I work with caterers, that are friends of mine through the years. Now we've done a lot of events. So it's as big or as small as you want it, and I get on the phone, people call me, and I spend hours of just like, well, maybe not hours, but definitely like easily like could speak for half an hour just telling people about caviar and hanging out without any sales, just because I really like to I don't know, make a difference, and that's sort of like a niche that I found, and if I could make people happy by offering it to them at like a white glove service, where it delivered to them and explained to them and all the misconceptions, and like I try to make my prices reasonable and make them happy. So I have a lot of recurring sales that also keep me happy, and people come back to me and recommend me to friends and stuff. So
and that's really nice too, that they like locally we have someone that you can connect with to really understand where it's coming from versus I think too maybe a lot of these restaurants and markets that perhaps were maybe limiting or even not having caviar in the menu because they're getting it from a distributor and they don't even know like the quality or really much about it, versus like having that like really like hyper local like a resource element that is invaluable.
Yeah, like if you go to Whole Foods, you have no idea where that's coming from. You flip you flip it and you don't really know how fresh, or like it doesn't have expiration dates. It doesn't it doesn't really have the name of the caviar nor where it comes from. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I've seen that over and over again just doing my research before I was starting out. And I think maybe I want to address also, like, for a lot of moms I know maybe will be listening that have an idea but they're scared to start. The fear of a failure sometimes is what prevents you to start something. I'm not going to lie, it does take some of the financial resources to put into a business no matter what, but it doesn't have to be much, especially if you start small. It could be your own build page. Maybe it won't be as perfect as you envision it, because there's specific companies that really build it up for you. But once you start, I personally use Wix.
Okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
And it actually guides you quite well.
Oh.
And the longer you spend on it, and again, I enjoy playing around, colors, videos, I put my friends in there eating caviar with me, like I put events, I bring in my Instagrams, kind of link to my website so people can click and see what I've done and how it looks. But the starting of something that you could make it work well with your family life, where it doesn't overwhelm you, but at the same time you feel like you have that venue of something to look forward to, and not just being a mom only, because that becomes really monotonous in so many ways.
And also, too, your boys have a great role model, not only as a good mother, but also someone that they see is out there building something, and that is contagious with children, right? That they see, who their parents are, and that they, are hard workers and entrepreneurial and putting themselves out there, and all of those things I think is also really great, to do for children, and something that they look up to. I know my daughter says it like all the time. Yeah. And my son didn't have that. I always worked hard, like when he was little, but I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. Yeah. And it's just interesting to see, like he sees it now, but he'll be 21 years old, and he's more like very proud, like, wow, like look how far, you've come. Yeah. Because I was a young single mom when I had him. Yeah. I remember with her. It's like, she's in it, right? She comes to my event. She was working the sand art table this past weekend at my event on Sunday, and like loving it, right? Yeah. And like just having this opportunity to like really learn that like anything is possible for these kids, and that you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it and you keep going and you're consistent and hardworking and all of it. So it's really, inspirational. So
it teaches them young how hard it is actually to earn money. Yeah. My son was like obsessed my 6-year-old collecting Pokemon cards, and then he really wanted an electronic scooter. And so I said, there's no reason to get it for you now, because it's not Christmas, it's not a holiday. Yeah. So you have a piggy bank, and let's see if you want to spend all your money. And his brother called him broke, because he actually, which is a funny word for a 6-year-old, I'm broke now. But he did buy himself an electronic scooter, which he's too scared to use now because it's kind of fast. But nevertheless, he's now selling the Pokemon cards and realizing how long it took him to just make $17 just standing there on the little like street in Monmouth Beach, like trying to do that. So it kind of, maybe you're absolutely right. Like, by seeing me, they're thinking a little bit further and deeper into it.
Totally. Yeah. I without a doubt, I do believe that. It's funny that you say that. My daughter, similar, like over the summer, she did a bracelet sale, but she's notorious for earning money in some capacity and then like stowing it away. And then when we're at like, she's kind of at that age now, she'll be 10, like girls are into like skincare and stuff. She's not too into it. I don't really hate it. I think that it's the worst things that they could be into. Yeah.
Taking care of yourself is good. It's good.
So we'll be, and she likes what is it, the hand sanitizer, Tradelands or something lands. I forget. It's like a brand that all the little girls are like obsessed with, and they're like scented hand sanitizers, but they're not like bad for you. They're supposed to be like better for your skin and moisturizing and stuff. And they come with like 17 different scents, and they are I think they're like $10 or $15 each. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So she was like obsessed with getting them. So Trad, I don't know. I gotta look it up. So she'll be like, all right, I'll get it from my money. I'm like, okay, because I'm not getting you another one, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get to the register, and she's like, are you sure that you don't want to pay? I'm like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay.
Yeah.
And she's like hates having to actually spend her money, but they learn, that.
Yeah.
We're not just you're not giving everything on a silver platter, so they have to earn it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, for like moms, I think you've held so many wonderful events. I mean, the Bulwark one comes to mind, where you had a podium of just these wonderful women that have grown so many like businesses on their own, and like other moms maybe like are thinking about it, and or like, again, like timid about it or shy about the idea of putting themselves out there, and the idea of failure. Like, I'm just, I think maybe listening to some podcasts that, and I'm not that, maybe you're more of that podcast than that audience.
Listen to you though. They'll listen to your story, right?
Just try it. Really try it.
Yeah.
Try it and see how it makes you feel, because I think it's just so hard to find that perfect balance between letting go completely and going back to the corporate world, and some moms do that. But if you can't, and if you don't want to, there's some things you could potentially do, whether it's like even bracelets or having your daughter, like I know some girlfriends of mine are taking their daughters or kids, boys even, like young kids, to little modeling gigs, right? It's so overwhelming because you got to travel to New York, but it's also teaching them. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Get on that ferry. It's a long day, and
putting yourself out there, and the rejection and all of it. Yeah.
But they're maybe necessarily not doing it again so much for them, but for their kids. But trying to do something for you. The hardest thing is really to find out what it is, right? And so the way I approached it is like, what makes me different? And all right, well, for me personally, because I'm foreign, like it just naturally, like, all right, Russian, I'm just gonna run with that. What makes me different with that? And then that's where I got into this, but maybe there's just continue to tab into like what could be different about, and everybody's different. Yeah. There is something everybody has to offer, whether it's, on the website, or as a talk, or as a gather together in a park, and because we support each other, and I think everybody needs that strength of like that movement of like, especially in the small community, that
like
we
hearing
can do
stories, hearing these stories, and really like just listening to your gut and like following your instincts. I'm reading actually a book right now. I love reading books about entrepreneurs. Right now I'm reading Anna Garten's book. It just came out. It's called Be Ready When the Luck Happens. And a lot of the time too, if you're not in business, and you're not really, if you're not really especially tuned into what it takes to be in business, a lot of people just have perceptions like, oh, well, she probably had money, or like, oh, she lived in the Hamptons, so that's how she got those cookbook deals, which couldn't be further from the truth. And her story is actually fascinating. And, she didn't, I mean, she had came from a regular, like, middle-class family growing up, and was groomed to go to college to marry, the Mrs. degree or whatever they said, and really didn't want that. And it was during, in the 70s when, women were going kind of both ways. They were still doing that, but also a lot, just during the it was hard.
It was hard to branch out, right? Because
and she met her husband in high school actually, and they've been together ever since, and they've been through ups and downs. But she started, she actually used to work in the White House, and then saw an ad in the paper for a gourmet grocery store that was for sale in West Hampton. And just something about it, like she knew no one there. She knew nothing about running a grocery store, by the way. Knew how to cook, but was not a trained chef. Did not go to culinary school. And took went up there with her husband, took it, gave them an offer. Didn't think that they would take it because it was all they could afford. And I think it was like 25 grand or something. And
which is a lot.
which is a lot.
A lot,
but not,
yeah.
I mean, not a lot for a grocery store, like in today's day
But
and
like
age.
for
But
a
for her, for
person to
someone's money,
start,
totally.
yeah.
And started. And that's where
It's
she
risky,
started.
right? Because you could lose it.
Totally.
You know.
And spent the whole summer kind of learning, and she lots of tough breaks along the way, and making taking chances, and then getting to the she moved her grocery store to a bigger one, and then to a bigger one, and then spent like 18 years doing that in the Hamptons, and actually sold it. And then I'm not done with it yet, but we're getting to the cookbook part. But she didn't really find success until much later in life. And now is, a lot of people, kind of a household name. I love her recipes, so I'm a big fan. But it's fascinating. But it's also, so she talks a lot about, in her book, about, the chances that she took, that listening to her gut, that not everything was a success. Not everything, sometimes you're just sticking stuff on the wall to see, if it's going to work. And I'm do that all the time, where I'm like, all right, I think this is what moms want. All right, maybe not, but let's try this. And how can we make this event better? That wasn't great. We had some complaint, just this past weekend. It was overall a great event, but we did have a few moms that weren't happy with certain things. So course correcting and try to figure it out. But this,
if you don't try,
if we don't try, we don't know.
Of course. And some people were happy, and you can't satisfy everybody.
Right.
And if your passion is gardening, for instance, like, what do you do with that if that's your passion? Well, maybe what you could do is pick a friend and do their garden and start a little Instagram page. I mean, Instagram, we're still sort of in that world of where that matters.
Yep.
And I mean, at some point, I think business cards will go away, and maybe Instagram, will go away. But right now, tap into that space, the TikTok crazy space. I mean, there's a lot of psychotic weirdness out there, but
I'm not on TikTok. I'm like afraid of it.
I don't do TikTok either. Just it's another thing to do, and because I do it all myself. Like between the marketing and the events, sometimes I take my own selfies just because if I'm not doing it, nobody even knows that I did the event, right? So, but taking something small like that and maybe using a friend or two that loves your gardening, and you come in and you just take pictures and you just offer it to somebody that could reach out, like, I don't know how to garden personally. I would love for somebody to come in and just do my anything, like mums, totally. Like organize my mums, like I don't,
I like getting outside like a couple times a year to do like the gardening. It's like nice, but I'm not like obsessed with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But I'm just giving I'm just brainstorming for some ideas, whether it's jewelry or or
you have to. I mean, years ago, this is a long story, but like very quickly, I worked in sales for a long time. And my husband always used to say, I always gravitated to what I was passionate about, right? I started in hospitality. I worked in restaurants. That was the next step, was getting into the sales, because it was nice that it was more of a regular schedule versus like restaurant, which was like chaotic, and I was a mom, so I was always, I was always working weekends, so it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But when it was not as lucrative as it once was when I first got into it, so like as it progressed, it just became more challenging to like really climb that corporate ladder without taking on more territory. So my husband used to say, like, just go sell something else. And so I did for a little bit, and I sold software to engineers.
Oh, wow. That's a big jump.
It was it was a huge life lesson for me. I learned a lot those 2 years. I probably put myself in really uncomfortable situations that like I typically wouldn't have, because it was a different sales cycle. It was a different sales environment.
Yeah.
And the people that I had to sell to, I really had to convince them to change their process of how they worked every day. And I didn't know anything about engineering. And to be honest, I did not care. And it's not that I didn't care about them or the product or my job or anything. It was just that I didn't have that like oomph for it. I didn't wake up every Monday and saying like, I can't wait to help these people like learn how to do their job in a different way, and whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a lot, but the company I worked for was great, and I learned so much from the people. in the end, it
You
just
were
wasn't for
trying,
me.
but you were trying.
But it wasn't for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
And I wasn't like passionate about it, and I didn't love it, and it didn't give me like that, like what they call the emotional paycheck, right? Of that, like that what
Gratitude,
gratifies
yeah.
you, right?
Gratifies you.
And that like you love what you do, and you
Yeah.
love that it also can help support your family,
Yeah.
and it gives you like a lot of different, it checks a lot of boxes. So, like if you can find something that you can do, and that also you can do for a living, that's like the best thing ever. So
Yeah, and it takes the minutia and just the everyday kind of like stuff that we do, makes you look forward to things for you.
Right.
Not because it's pumpkin picking for the kids, because so much of what we do is like just for the kids, and it's draining, and
It
it's
is,
like not, everybody. That's the thing. Like I tell my husband the other day, I was like, everybody expects you to have everything perfect, the meals and the cleanliness and the laundry. But then when it's not, like everybody's like, why is this not done, right? Like, but when it's done, it's just the way. I remember this myself.
Yeah.
My gosh, if I could take myself back when I was little and I didn't appreciate all the little things that my mother did. Like it's you don't see that as a child. I don't really even care. I don't think they care that I feed them really healthy. Like I don't remember that from.
They're mad that you're not giving them McDonald's.
You're like, yeah,
they are. My daughter is.
I made them watch Super Size Me.
Oh, good.
So they have a little bit of an idea now.
So when you are not building your business and working within the community, where are a few of your favorite spots to visit with your kids and maybe for date night with your husband?
Yeah, I mean, you and I touched upon the subject of like just the beauty aspect of it and how to take care of yourself and things that I think it's so important to be able to feel good and look good to yourself, whatever that image is. Because if I'm happy with how I feel and how I look, I think I'm a better mom and a better husband. I'm a better wife and I'm a better friend.
Yep.
Because I think confidence drives that kind of feeling of like I can do it, versus feeling like gray under the weather, like just getting out there, going for a walk. I think if you have ability to just lace up and put a couple of good podcasts or a book, I just listened to Amy Schumer's book, like I was like in a weird like funk. I think my mother calls it the fall. I think everybody goes through a little fall kind of weird change of weather, so I put some Amy Schumer and she just like made me feel good, like for the half hour that I had, like either in my car or doing my errands. Find something that inspires you, like that person, or tap into that podcast space, or I don't have time to necessarily sit there with the book or the patience, maybe. It's been so long I've read books that and I'm ashamed to say, like, I don't remember last time I actually sat down and had the patience. Like my mind just goes and I read half a page and I feel like I didn't, because I remember what I had to do downstairs and so forth. But if somebody's reading you the book out, like Amy's voice is there, just as an example, right? Yep. She's the one reading the book. And there's others, like McConaughey, the actor, what's his name?
Matthew McConaughey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's also got like that soothing voice, and he came out with his own book. And whatever that might be for you, I think just leaving the house is positive. Getting the fresh air, no matter how cold, no matter how rainy, just try to leave the house. It works for me, even if I really don't want to go,
Any favorite restaurants?
Oh my God. So around here, you have your usual places, but I like supporting all the businesses that are really try hard to make you happy, and they do a great job. I mean, I pretty much love them all. We live around the Monmouth Beach is just
right
around,
by Yumi, and
Yumi's right there.
So good.
Yes,
the best.
we deliver a lot from them. Then everybody knows Angelica's. It's just a really quaint, great formula, BYOB, and the food is just off the charts. Always.
So good.
I mean, Beach Tavern is just around the corner from us.
I always forget about that. I
Yeah.
have to go back there someday. soon.
We're trying this new omakase place they just built, the Japanese place in Asbury.
Oh.
So you could sit around the counter just like, and they make the sushi in front of you.
That's nice. You're close to Asbury too, so that's nice.
Taka, of course.
Yeah.
And then we just went to one of the hibachi places.
Okay.
With the kids, when they flip things and it's a show and they like throw it into your mouth or like they spray water in the kids. It's just entertaining, and it's fried rice and noodles, and they have a bar, so it's fun for everybody. You could like do like a whole, maybe like even I was thinking of a birthday party there.
Yeah.
Because you could have a table with the kids and the adults could be like right next to them, but like at a different table. But I love Second Jetty.
That's another
One
one.
Willow.
So good. Yeah, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, we're close to the ocean. We're at the ocean, but everything else is a little further. Like all of my
grocery stores and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be honest, I get a lot of things delivered. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of, you can't just run to Target.
No, yeah, and most of the ththings are too heavy to bring in, and so we get the waters and all the detergents and all of that, like paper towels and stuff. But I find that part so not gratifying. Like,
oh my gosh, I hate going grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It depends on the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like if it's like what's the new one over here? Not Joe.
Labodi's is good.
It's like that in Shrewsbury. It's an Italian place that opened like last year. I can't think of what the heck it's called.
Dearborn is great.
Yeah,
for
Dearborn's
instance.
good. Yeah,
Delicious orchards, but everything is like
it's a hike. Yeah,
the World Market, I guess.
Yes,
there's
yes.
that one.
Yeah,
they have unique things. I mean, everybody loves Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
I guess prices and the like one-stop shop. But
it's fun sometimes to explore, but like just like the monotonous like grocery shopping isn't fun. So so tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah. So I named my company after myself because of a weird trip we had where everybody said, Masha Moro, you sound like a celebrity. Like it's a celebrity.
You do.
It's almost like, are you like, we were flying to, it was actually St. Bart's. So I guess maybe a lot of celebrities do fly there. It was like a big 40th, 20 of us went. My girlfriend organized it, but so Masha Moro, a few of the people that were checking my IDs were mentioning it, and I was like, I'm just going to name it that. Not Masha Moro Caviar.com, but MashaMoro.com, because I was thinking maybe I was going to expand to like truffles or foie gras or any of those like high-end stuff, but then I'd rather be like an expert in one, and truffles are so fussy, and foie gras, I actually don't eat red meat.
Okay.
So it became like just caviar.
Conflicts of interest.
Just conflict and caviar is just it keeps me busy enough. There's so much more that I could do, to be honest. Like from New York City, people are reaching out. Like Saks reached out, and they want to do Christmas packages with me. And people find me like randomly, like, oh my God, Rolls-Royce just contacted me from a Paramus, so they want to do like something special for their. So it's either like sometimes you feel like it's nothing and you feel bad because you don't have time to put into it, but then all of a sudden your name is just out there enough to like people actually Googling caviar near me, and it just it every business, my husband says, who's like a smart man, probably the smartest man I know, but every entrepreneurial business, unless in 4 years you will either fail or you will grow and succeed. So I mean, I guess I kind of made it so far. Let's see what happens, but a lot of them they might not take off. But don't be discouraged to try, I think, because at some point people will find you. Like I did a lot of visiting and calling and reaching out, and now I could almost like sit back and people come to me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I give my all. Like I really do give my all.
Well, I'm excited to try it. You're going to have to let me know. I know I can get it on the site, MashaMoro.com.
MashaMoro.com.
On Instagram, it's Masha Moro Caviar.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sure lots of moms will be reaching out. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah.
It's so inspirational.
Thank you.
I learned so much today. So thank you again. And we will put where to find Masha in the notes so you can try it out for yourself.
Yeah, and I do gift certificates too. So if you wanted to bring it into a basket, which I've done a lot, like if you're raising like something for your school,
Oh,
you
okay.
know,
Yep.
and the caviar is perishable and it has to live on ice, you can just stick a piece of paper for like $100 certificate towards your basket, and then that winner can use the $100 towards purchasing something either just using that or purchasing like a big tasting.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
that makes it a little bit more flexible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great to know.
And maybe we'll do an event one of these days, and
Yes.
the ladies could get to try it
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
I know we're always asking for more Mom's Night Out, so we gotta discuss it.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for coming,
Of
and
course.
we
Thank
will
you,
see you
Kate.
soon.
Yes, thank you, Kate. Thanks for having me.